Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Laura Canfield Show, the Create Your Life video series. Thank you so much for being here with us today. It's a special day, Saturday, but that's okay. We can do this anytime, right? And so I'm so excited that we're talking today with Christel Crawford about how to go beyond mediocre to infinite possibility. And this is a topic that has been bringing up so much stuff for everybody. And you know, I learn something new every day. So we're going to get right into it because I know that today we're going to have questions. Well, we have questions every day, but I know today we're going to have questions. So for those of you who are just joining, you can submit a question on the Q&A box, or you can raise your hand and I will unmute you and you can ask your question. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about Christel. You all know about me, so I'm not even going to bother because I actually did my own bio a few shows ago. It's like, oh, in case you don't know, but you know who I am by now. So Christel Crawford is an Access Consciousness certified facilitator. She's a life business visibility coach, author, and enjoyer of the miracles. I love that, enjoyer of the miracles. 10 timesing her income in under a year and creating an online coaching business that continues to expand. She thrives on the miracle of you, changing, and let's face it, a well-crafted landing page. I'm going to have to check those out. I don't, because your landing pages, if they're, I think they're good. And so I can learn a thing or two. So she's been a restaurateur and a waitress, a minister and a heretic, a landscape designer and the crew, a wife and an adulteress. I love that. And the expansionist and coordinator for a number of other businesses in and out of Access Consciousness. She works with entrepreneurs and life creators daily and is authoring her second book, and in her spare time travels through cities around the world, makes out with her man, and wonders what she'll create next. Like that is quite the bio. So Christel, welcome.
Thanks. I love hearing that thing read out loud. I'm like,
yeah, there's some juicy tidbits in there that I'm sure people are like, what? How can she say that out loud?
This woman.
So thank you so much for being here with us today. And I'm so excited because I've been, the series was just like a spontaneous thing. It's like, I just feel like doing this. And so can you tell us a little bit about how you started with Access Consciousness, and your journey a little bit, and then we'll get into more of the questions so that I don't bombard you with a million questions at once.
Yeah, well, so I found Access Consciousness probably about 4 years ago. And I was about a year and a half into a self-healing journey anyway. I was seeing another lady and doing another modality that had helped me be unsuicidal, because about a year and a half prior to that, I was really suicidal. And so I'd kind of gotten my feet under me, but I was at a point when I was like, there has to be a way to be happy without seeing a professional 3 times a week, because that's pretty much what I was doing to stay happy. And so it was just, how sometimes you just have that energy where it's like, God, there's just got to be more. I don't know where it is. I don't know what it is. I don't even know what the more is, but that ache of So about 2 weeks after this ache began in my world, I found an old friend on Facebook who I used to go to Bible school with. This is very weird. I have a degree in theology. And she and I went to the same little Bible school. We'd lost touch. We found each other again on Facebook. But now she had Access Consciousness listed as her employer. And because we had always resonated and I started Googling it. I'm like, what the is she into? So I looked at the Access Consciousness website and was wildly confused about what the heck it is, how you start, I didn't know. So it took me about 2 weeks of Googling continuously. And then I finally found another facilitator's website that seemed to just explain it better. And I emailed them and I'm like, where do you start? She said, well, this is where she introduced me to the first tool. And one of the things that I've used to create my life dynamically is she's like, well, you get to choose. So would you like to start with a session or would you like to start with a class? Which one's lighter? I'm like, what? She goes, well, what's light for you is true for you. And what's heavy is not true for you. So I had no idea how to use this tool. I did this. I'm like, session, class, session, class. Anyway, session seemed quieter, I guess. So I had a bar session. And literally within I would say we had an hour and a half, 90-minute session. I got off that table and it seemed like we changed more stuff in that hour and a half than we'd changed in a year with this other lady. It was really dramatic for me. And so I had a few more sessions. I ended up taking a bars class just so I could get to foundation. And foundation just changed the trajectory of my whole life. I When I took foundation, I was already planning a life change. Like I was a landscape designer at the time, but I was done with that. I wanted to do something that helped people. So I was planning on going back to nutrition school and studying this modality that I had learned before Access, which was the bioenergetic intolerance elimination. So I'd gotten accepted to school. I had all my stuff. My landlord was given notice. Like I had all the things lined up. And then I took a foundation class. And that Access Foundation class basically gave me more information about myself and the way that I function, in that I don't like finishing things. School takes too long. I learn things faster than most people. I don't actually want to sit at a desk. And so I got all this awareness about myself, and really got that going to school for another 3 years I think I was 37 at the time, 38. Anyway, I was a bit older. Wasn't the thing I actually wanted to choose. So after foundation, I canceled all that, and I realized I could become a certified facilitator in just as much time, if not faster. And within 8 months, I was a certified facilitator with Access Consciousness.
Wow.
So I really did it quickly, and I spent the next probably year and a half after I chose that working for someone else in their business, and really getting a sense of, because I still didn't really know how to create my life. That was a concept that was very, very not normal for me. Even though I'd been doing it, I didn't really recognize I'd been doing it, and I definitely didn't know how to fully change it. So I worked for someone else, and then there came a point where I hit another wall, and then I started really creating my business for myself. So that's sort of the nutshell version.
Thank you. And you're right. That choosing, and sometimes I think we don't even understand or recognize what choice means,
Yeah.
And that light heavy, it's like, I still sometimes don't get it. It's like, what? So it took me a while to get that. It's a silly thing, and before, like for me, I was never allowed to make a choice. Like growing up, I didn't have choices. My parents said, you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to marry this person, you have to take this training, and I never had a choice. And inside, it's like, I don't really like that. I don't really want to do that, but I didn't have a choice, right? Or that's what I thought, Everything has changed now, but that's besides the point. But still, I feel like a lot of people don't realize that they have choice. They can choose. They can choose something different, right? And so that light heavy is excellent, but also, like, how do you how do you tell people you can choose something else, and we don't always know how it's going to look. And I think that's what a lot of people, they want to make a choice that they can see the whole trajectory, the whole plan, how it's exactly going to turn out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's exactly what we think we want. And but when you really look back over your life, like when you got married, if any of you are married, like when you got married, when you got pregnant for the first time, when you chose to go to university, you didn't know how any of that was going to go either, and you chose it anyway. And it's funny when we look at sort of recreating ourselves. I find I work with a lot of people that in their 40s, 50s, 60s that are really recreating themselves. It's like they've been through a big divorce, or whatever. It's time for a change, or they've gotten laid off, or whatever. You never know how it's going to go. The only thing you ever really have a sense of is what maybe your next 1 or 2 steps are. Mm-hmm. And that's really what I tell people and empower people with, is like, hey, so first of all, everywhere you say, I don't know, you're invalidating your being. So cut that shit out. Mm-hmm. And the thing to add when you hear yourself saying, I don't know, is to go, okay, so if I did know, what would it be? That's the first thing to sort of start churning around, because you do somewhere know, but you may not know that you know. So you've got to start asking the questions that actually tap you into what your awareness is. If you did know, what would it be? And another thing I hear a lot is like, well, I just don't know how, I don't know where to start. I don't know if I can do it. First of all, if you could do it, what would you know? And if you did know where to start, what would that be? And it's so funny, because what that does is it sort of tricks you into what's already there. It tricks you into having the awareness that you already have the capacity for, that you haven't known how to tap into. And so I think those would be like some of the first few things that I would start adding into the mix. And you're not going to know how the whole thing goes. Like, you don't know how your whole life's going to go. Like, you don't know. And that's, if you're willing to have an adventure, that's actually a huge delight instead of a stopping point.
I love that. And, life, for me is an adventure. I don't know 6 months from now what is going to happen. I mean, I know I have some classes planned. So like, okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Or in my calendar, but I don't know what else is going on, right? And it's, for me, it's about being open to new possibilities and new opportunities. And when something shows up and saying, hey, oh, would this be fun for me? I ask
Yeah.
that, oh, would this be fun? And I get the sense of yes or no, right? Then sometimes I get a yes, and then later on it changes to a no. It's like, okay, so what is this, right? And so what are some of the tools that you used in your life to change your life? Because, this series is called Create Your Life. And you've been creating your life dynamically, like you said, right? I've been creating my life dynamically for the past 5-6 years, and it's amazing, and more so. And, I just want to tell everybody, in case you don't know, we are going to be using some Access Consciousness tools and the clearing statement. If you want to find out more about the clearing statement, you can go to theclearingstatement.com to find out more about that. But, even when you do get stuck, when you want to make a choice, when you want to make I'll even say decision, because you're at that point. It's like, I need to choose one or the other, right? This or this. What do you do?
Yeah, well, it's a great question.
I ask a lot of questions at once, by the way.
And of course, there's not just one response to it. I would say the first thing that comes when you're looking at it is, as you're, I guess I'll start a little bit more at the beginning-ish, which is when I first started hearing this whole concept. For me, creating your life was a concept in the beginning. I was like, what does that even mean? I have a job, I'm bringing in some money. At the time when I started really getting all this language into my universe, I was working as a manager in a restaurant, and I was making tips, and, I learned the bars. So I'd started a little bars practice, but it's like, create your life. What is that?
Mm-hmm.
And the first thing I want to tell you is, like, we're not taught how to create our life. We're not even given that information that that's a thing. And so when you first get it into your world, you have to start discovering, because I started hearing people say, well, what's fun for you? What's fun for you, Christel? And I was like,
I don't know.
Like, going out for a drink with the girls, that's fun. I think I had like 2 things on my fun list, and both of them had to do with alcohol. And I was like, because I've been so used to, like, job, go out after work, go home to your house. Like, I've been used to this certain type of life.
Yeah.
So I didn't know. I really didn't have, I didn't even have any reference points. I didn't have any information in my world, And whenever you're starting something new, whether you're starting a new business, or you're starting a new workout plan, or you're starting a new relationship, or you're starting a new job, there's education and information required for all of it. And I think that was the piece that I sort of didn't get told. It's like, but one of the things I did get told that I started playing with, it was, you got to start trying on realities. And I just started playing with this in the only way I knew how. I started looking around at my friends and sort of the lives that they had. And I was like, I had a lot of friends that traveled a lot. I had a lot of friends that liked nice jewelry, liked nice clothes, liked the finer foods. And so I started creating enough money that I could, like, check that out. Like, what's it like to have oysters and Prosecco? That wasn't something I'd ever chosen before. I'm like, well, that's delicious. What's it like to go shop at Nordstrom's instead of shopping at all the bargain stores, which is really where I'd been taught to shop. What's it like driving a Mercedes versus driving a Ford? Sure, Ford's fine, but what's it like doing this? What's it like doing these things that everybody says is so great? Because I hadn't done them. So I didn't know if I even liked it. I didn't even know if that was a thing for me. And as I started choosing those things, I started getting more of a sense of, like, well, I do really like this, and I do really like this, and this is like, I could do this or not do that,
Mm-hmm.
So that's a huge piece of starting to get a sense of what you even want as your life. And even with online business, I have a vibrant online business today, but in the beginning, I was really just dabbling. I needed the money. It was a little bit easy for me, and we'll do this online business thing and see if I like it. And it came to a point several times where I had to ask myself, do you even want to keep doing this? Because I was starting to get bored. And, so there's going to be different points along the journey where you really do have to get present with yourself and go, is this fun for me? Do I even know what's fun for me? And if I don't, what can I try on that would give me more information? And we talk in Access a lot about choice creating awareness. Choice is what creates awareness. So that choosing to try on realities gives you awareness. Right. It's like dating a bunch of people, which I've also done. Like, you're going to get a lot of awareness about what kind of guys work for you, what kind of sex you like, what kind of sex you don't like. Definitely not that type. Definitely, and that's going to give you the awareness to create something with.
And, when it comes to choice, you're not stuck with the choice that you make forever. And I think that was one of the things that gets people, is that once they make a choice, it's for life. It's forever and never more. Yeah. Right? And
Yeah.
and it's not true. And then, like you said, when you make a choice and you get the awareness of whether you like it or not, then you can choose again. You can say, oh, well, you know what, this was fun, I'll do this again. Or this was not fun, I'm not going to do this again, I'll try something else, right?
Yeah, and then trying to make the right choice is a killer. And I think we're all so entrained to try to make the right choices with our life. And there's all this meaning behind that. Like, you know, you got to make the right, choose to marry the right person because you're stuck with that person forever. Choose, you've got kids with this person. Choose to have the right career because you're in that forever. There's all this premise behind doing the right choices that have to do with forever.
Yeah.
And I love the every 10 seconds tool too, because I use it all the time. And that's that you literally have a new choice in every 10 seconds. And this one was another one of those things that really took me a while to start to get, because it was really shook up my right and wrong paradigm. And I was entrenched in trying to do it right.
Mm-hmm, me too. That was my thing. Like, I got to do it right. I can't make mistakes, you know?
Yeah. In fact, I got into consciousness trying to do consciousness right, which is the antithesis of consciousness. Like, consciousness includes everything and judges nothing, right? There is no right or wrong in consciousness, and trying to do it right is anti-conscious.
And when you're trying to be perfect and do it right, there's judgment in there already.
All the time.
You know, and so then we're already stuck in this box of judgment, and you can't get out, and you can't even see anything clearly.
Yeah.
I'm getting an aha just for a second here.
Yeah, like we could just go on and on about that. But like, it's like when you're looking at creating your life and you are really used to functioning from right and wrong, you're just going, well, if I couldn't do this wrong, if I can't do this wrong, what could I choose?
I like that. Yeah.
And I have a class that I call Do It Wrong, Do It Badly, Do It Anyway. And that's pretty much my motto for life, I would say. You know, I mean, I've been divorced twice. I've had affairs. I've done everything in an attempt to find my reality.
Yes.
And I didn't really acknowledge that before. I just made myself wrong for all the stuff that I thought you're told is wrong. But
you're telling my sister story, like my story, sister. It's like, exactly me. I love it.
Yeah. So, yeah.
It's funny. I told my now husband, I'm married for the third time, and I told my husband when we first got together in the relationship, I'm getting smart now. It's like, okay, listen, this relationship is great. I love it, and it's going to continue as long as it stays expansive and light. As soon as it doesn't, I'm out of here.
Yep.
He just laughed at me. It's like, okay.
Yeah. And I'm in an amazing relationship right now, and he just moved in, so we're essentially married. We just haven't done the party, but I'm like, I want to party. Let's do it. So we'll see what we choose there. But I mean, we've created our whole relationship, and we constantly have conversations about, and with the knowledge that I change dynamically, that he changes dynamically, that things in the world, we all change dynamically. And to constantly be in the question about like, hey, who are we today? And what do we want to create today? Instead of, okay, now that you've moved in, this is like, now we're serious.
Serious, yeah. But again,
really
it comes down to, how, can we have fun together? And what can we do to have fun together?
Yeah. And for me, it was also really important. And this is another piece of just really getting to know what your reality is. It was also really important that we be able to create together. Mm-hmm. And that didn't have to look a certain way. Like, it didn't mean like necessarily collaborating on a business together, so to speak, but the creation of a future was important to me. And again, I didn't know how that was going to look. But I knew that, like, I mean, I tried everything. I tried having a sugar daddy. I tried like dating people that did something totally different. I tried dating people that weren't into consciousness. I tried a lot of things. So I learned about myself, and I'm like, okay, well, I need somebody who's into consciousness. I need somebody who like loves to create and like constantly be looking at what else is possible. And, somebody who, there was all these things that I learned through dating that was important to me. And that's all it really requires, is you just have to get a sense of what like your priorities are and hang out with somebody who that matches and it's fun to be with. And
so one of the questions or tools that Christel just dropped in there that you might have missed was what else is possible, right?
Oh, yeah.
Creating with that question of what else is possible here. When something is going great, it's like, what else is possible here that would be fun, that would create more for my life, and if things are not going so great, ask, what else is possible here? And what else is possible that I haven't considered? And, just, being in those questions and not being in your head, not looking for the answer. My sister just got laid off. And so I sent her a message saying, hey, do you want to talk? She goes, no, not really. So I was like, okay, but when she is ready to talk, if she is, then I'll share some of these tools with her, see if she's open to it, tell her to ask some of these questions and see, where she goes with that. But she's a human. She's not a humanoid, Or is she? But she's just not aware. And so right now, sometimes we get stuck in the drama, right? The drama and trauma of something happening, and we can't, and we want to figure it out, right? We just want to figure it out with our heads and our minds without asking any questions. I mean, how many of you have done that? Me included. We all do that, right? But then how do you get out of that funk? I'm going to call it quickly.
Yeah, well, the key thing for me has been to really acknowledge that 99.99999% of every single thing that floats through my head isn't mine.
99.999.
It's really the 100%, but we don't say it that way. So we leave a little room for doubt. But yeah, nothing that goes through your world is yours. And that has taken me years to really integrate into my life, because I had spent many, 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 many years thinking not only was it mine, but that because all that stuff going on inside of me was mine, I was completely fucked up. Mm-hmm. And when you've assumed that you're fucked up and you haven't actually acknowledged what's going on, which is that you're just aware of everything that's fucked up, then you've given away your power to something else, and you don't even know you're doing it. So that acknowledgement that you're incredibly psychic, like beyond what you even know, beyond what you could even perceive right now, is ridiculous, actually. Because when you look at, if you take your emotions out of anything and you go and you look at this as a fact, and what this means that if you're willing to be what you are, which is essentially a walking, talking radio receiver, you can walk into a room and know everything that's going on instantly. The moment you assume that it's yours, though, you no longer have that capacity to know everything, because you've decided it's yours, you've decided you're fucked up, and you're trying to fix a problem that isn't even yours to begin with. And
wow. Yeah.
That's huge.
That's huge. Wow. I'm like, holy shit. So and it's not just, when you're walking into the room, it's also like in this space that we are on right now with the show, all your stuff, everybody's stuff. If we're able to be aware and be present and just allow those thoughts, feelings, emotions to come up and realize, hey, that's not mine, that's somebody else's. Right?
Yeah, it becomes a superpower when you actually get a handle on it, and it takes practice. Like this is one of those tools, and this is one of those access things that actually takes practice. Like, and we tell you, like, when you're first starting with access tools, here's one way you can use this. For 3 full days, every single thought, every single emotion, every single feeling, every single point of view that comes into your head, and trust me, when you first start this, it's constant. You have no idea how many thoughts, feelings, and emotions are going through your head. But use, hey, who does this belong to? Is it mine or is it someone else? And you just return it to sender with consciousness attached. Now, again, like I said, because you're so conditioned to like going into something floats through your head, you start to ruminate on it. You start to mull on it. You start to try to figure it out. You start to try to fix it. Then you've locked it in place instantly, because what you haven't done is acknowledge what's true. And what's true is that it's not yours. What you've done is you've bought it. And so now you're ruminating on it, and now you're trying to fix it as a problem, but you've decided it's a problem. You've decided it's yours. And this is the crazy thing about all this stuff, is that every single time you make a decision or you have a fixed point of view, you've created a limitation, and you've created something you can't go beyond, because all of a sudden you've bought a lie. You've bought a lie that it's yours and that it's a problem. And so that one tool, if you use that for every single moment of your life, would set you free completely. And then, you'll forget about it after a while, and then you'll feel better. But that's a massive piece of information. And the more you get that, the more, and then every time you start something new, when we're talking about creating your life, you tap into a universe of insanity around that thing. So it doesn't matter if you're starting a new workout plan, or you're starting a new way of eating, or you're starting a new business. You somehow, when you choose to start a new business, for example, tap into all the insanity around business, and all of a sudden you feel more fucked up than you've ever felt before, unless you have the information that none of that's yours. And if you're willing to know that, and you tap into all this insanity, man, you've got fodder for content, because you've got all this information in your world. And if you're not buying it as yours, then all of a sudden you're empowered to create.
Absolutely. And that's the thing, that empowerment, then you can really truly create your life the way that you desire. Because sometimes when we talk about creating your life, it sounds just like words, sounds like something fluffy, sounds like
It's a concept. It's like a nice
It's a
theory.
concept, right?
Yeah.
And how can we really do that? But it does come down to really also being clear on what it is that you want. What do you want to create? And so when we talk about creating, so for example, with my life right now, I'm in Vienna, Austria, right? And it's like when I acknowledged that wow, I created this. I said I want to go to Vienna. I said I want to be in the first district. I said I want to have beautiful antiques and art on my walls and in my space, and I have it now. It's like, wow, I created that because number one, I said I wanted it. I chose it. I asked for it. I started looking around, going to art dealerships and antique places and looking at stuff and saying, oh, I really like that. What would it take for me to have that or something like it, right? So that is creation as well, right? And now, like, traveling more, in Europe, which is much easier than North America, but still traveling more, I said yes, right? So isn't creating your life also saying yes to opportunities and possibilities and things that show up?
Oh, yeah, 100%. And it's also then creating the opportunities. And you said a key thing in the creation of the life you have now. You said I chose it. And I think there's a lot of metaphysical, points of view out there about manifesting and asking and ask and receive, and the universe will deliver. And there's information missing in that. And the biggest piece of information is the choosing of it. And there's something very different between choosing to have something. So like, for example, when I was first starting the creation of my life, I looked at all my friends that were traveling and going to all of these big expensive classes. And I was like, God, that would be so nice, is where I started. That would be so nice.
Yeah.
Which is not a choice.
Or I wish I could go.
Yeah. That's a waxing and a waning poetic about how nice it would be.
Yeah.
And what would it take is not actually a question.
Mm-hmm.
And what I find with actual questions is that there's a choice innate in the question. So there's what would it take, which sort of brushes it off to like fantasy land. It'll never happen. Because you're right. It doesn't happen. Things don't just happen. You create them, and you create them by choosing them. And this is a very bizarre concept, because you would think that it works a little bit backwards. Like if you don't have the money, how do you get the money? You choose the thing, and then you be and do whatever it takes to create the money and receive the money. But that's the key, and so there's what would it take? And then there's the like, oh no, I'm having this. What would it take for it to show up? Yeah. And it's the choice that empowers you to be and do whatever it takes. And it's the choice that informs the universe that that's what you're having. And so now the universe can contribute to that, because it has a clear now sense of what it is you're going to have. And then you got to let go of how it shows up. Because that's the other thing we like to control is I want this exact thing at this exact time. And then we get pissed off that it didn't work. We really set ourselves up in the perfect trap to be disappointed and to feel rejected and all the stuff. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's the choice. Choice creates.
I love that, because, I have always started with, I started with what would it take for that to show up? Not knowing when I actually moved to the point of I'm choosing this, I'm having this, So I always start with what would it take for this to show up? Then I forget about it, and then I do stuff and I choose stuff, and then it shows up, right?
But even in that, like even in the way you act, like there was curiosity in that. Well, what would it take for this to show up? And then you just let it go. Yeah. That's an actual question. That's so cool, because an actual question has curiosity to it. It's like, well, what would that take? Yeah. And then, like we've been asking that about getting a house. I lived with 3 other people, and John, my lover, and then 2 friends. Mm-hmm. And we live in this big, beautiful house now. We just moved in. Pictures. Yeah. And we want to build, the 4 of us want to build, but we don't actually know exactly how that's going to show up yet, and I get, we kind of haven't fully chosen it yet. Now we're taking lessons on stock trading, and we're looking at all the ways we can create extra income. But for example, like we were asking, what would this take? And 2 days ago, this full of possibility architect walked in to our house for a bars exchange, having just moved from Mexico 3 months ago and inexplicably needed to move to Vancouver. And he's everything that we would have asked for in an architect and more.
Interesting.
And so that's when you are actually curious, things do show up as if by randomly, when you don't even know it's time.
And it is magical when you are in that sense of curiosity and wonder and actual question. It does seem like things do happen magically, right? And so then sometimes we don't acknowledge, hey, yeah, I created this, and yes, the universe supported me in creating this. We just automatically say, oh, it was the universe who did it. The universe brought it to me. the metaphysical way, right? But it's us choosing and us taking steps. So now, like the guy or whoever came into your life, this architect, but now it's up to you to choose whether you're going to continue having a conversation with him.
Totally. Like we've got to have a conversation with him. We got to see how much a plan costs. We've got to see what that money's required. And then when we get the dollar amount that it takes to start planning with him, then we get to go, okay, so what do we have to do or be to create this money with ease?
That's a great question. What
do I have to do or be to create this money with ease? So
exactly.
But you're choosing it.
I can't even say it. So it's like, oh, I need that one.
Yeah. But there's a choice in it. It's like, no, we're choosing to have these plans and now we don't have the money yet. It just hasn't shown up yet. So what do we have to do or be to create it with ease?
Yeah.
And being willing to be that energy and like use all of your capacities to do whatever it takes to create what you desire, then that things show up.
So Larry's asking, are you checking if the choice is in your or others' highest interest?
So looking at it from that perspective actually requires you to do a lot of judgment. So what does that even mean? And so I would say, no, I'm looking for the awareness that I have of what future that choice will create. So let's just say, let's just take killing somebody or not killing somebody. So I have choice, total choice. I could kill somebody or not kill somebody. I have the capacity to kill somebody. Do I want to use it today? Some days I think I do. Then I look at actually doing it. And I'm like, what would that choice create in 5 years? Is that going to actually be easy? Is it going to be fun? And I know I'm making light of this and I'm using a really extreme example, but you really do have to be willing to start looking at what your choices are going to create in the future from a light and heavy point of view, from an expansive or a contractive point of view, because that's actually the thing that gets you out of judgment. You have to use so much judgment to decide whether or not something's in somebody else's highest, best interest. What does that even mean? Who decides those things? How arbitrary is that? And how much judgment do you have to use against yourself to know whether or not you're being a good person? Mm-hmm. And so I would say everything that is times a godzillion, can we destroy it and create it all?
Yes.
Right, wrong, good, bad, POC, all nine shorts, boy, demands. So this is the point where if you're willing to let go of judgment as the most valuable tool to create your life, this is where things can get expansive in a way that you can't understand. And by expansive, I mean, we talk about in Access Consciousness about this, I'm going to call it a concept, about being an infinite being, mm-hmm. right? You've got finite being, which is a being that like ends after one round. And then you've got infinite being who goes on and on and on and on and on. And the way that you know if you're an infinite being or not is you can close your eyes and you can actually like just perceive the space that's just outside your body, and then keep looking at that space and try to find the outside edges of that space, and just keep going and keep going and keep going until you can find the edges of you. And if what you discover is that there is no edges, you're an infinite being. Now, one of the tools I use all the time with so many different things is, would an infinite being choose this, mm-hmm. for example? Would an infinite being choose this? So you can use that for so many different things. So sometimes I get myself into a twist about money and I'm all like, fucked up in my head. And I'll go, okay, so would an infinite being choose to be fucked up? No. Are you an infinite being? Yes. So you would choose this for what reason? And what that starts to do is it actually integrates and institutes into your world in slow incremental amounts that you do have choice and that you are choosing mm-hmm. in that particular moment to be fucked up, in that particular moment to be judgmental, in that particular moment to be upset, and that you do have another choice. And that sounds really basic, but it's one of the most, I think, profoundly simple, life-changing concepts is really recognizing that every single thing that you do, every single judgment you make, every single moment of lack, moment of need, moment of doubt is a choice. Because what that means is that you're not pathetic and that you can choose something else. And so this is the journey of consciousness and awareness, is really getting out of judgment into the awareness of your capacity as an infinite being, not a finite being who has to judge and conclude and go to all the limited points of view, right? All of those are a limitation and don't allow you to have this broad awareness of infinite possibilities, mm-hmm. right? And we try to limit our infinite possibilities all over the place for all kinds of reasons. But what if being willing to be aware of the future your choices created would give you a more expansive space to be in, a more expansive life, a faster creating life, a life that was more fun to be in?
Absolutely. And that, that is so beautiful. And I know because I'm getting this awareness that some of you are like getting pissed off at this conversation about us having choice. And you're stuck in where you are. And you're like, where is the choice in this? Right? There's no choice. I'm stuck here. It's like, so if you have a question like that, or that's something that's coming up in your world about that, just let us know. Maybe we can clear something, facilitate something for you so that you can really have some more clarity around that. Because sometimes, when I was, before I started choosing for my life, I was stuck. I got to the point where it's like, God, universe, this is not what I signed up for. I'm out of here. If I don't get a sign in the next 6 months, I'm out of here. I'm done. I can't do this anymore. It's like, this doesn't work for me. And then, of course, within 6 months, everything started changing. It's like, oh, okay. And then each time I made a choice, it was always, almost always better when I was getting out of my head, right? So when I was out of my head and I made a choice that felt good for me on the inside, like felt light and joyful and expansive, turned out to be even more beautiful and more magical than I could have imagined. But that was me staying out of my head, because I used to, still kind of am, in my head a lot, right? So I'm a head tripper, and so what can we do to stay out of our heads, other than who does this belong to? But what else can we do to stay out of our heads? Because I don't always remember that one when it comes to my head. I remember it when it comes to physical aches and pains or emotions, but when it comes to my own mental chatter, I don't always remember it then.
I think there's multiple ways to answer that. There's different things that go on. Sometimes I get into one of the common places I get into my head is in relationships. When something has gone awry, it's like, oh, something's not right. And so I'll try to go into my head to figure out what the problem was so that I can fix it. And maybe that's a more common place to go into your head. It's like you try to figure out the how, you try to figure out what the problem is so that you can fix it. And I think one of the first things to do is just to start to acknowledge that that's something you do. It's like, that sounds really basic, but it's like, oh yeah, I like going into my head.
Yeah.
Because if you start to acknowledge that you like doing it, then it suddenly gets lighter. First of all, you're like, oh yeah, I like going into my head. It's kind of fun. The second thing to acknowledge about the fact that you like it is that, I guess it's just an add-on to that even more of like, well, it keeps me busy. I get to figure things out. I get to sort out problems. It doesn't really work that well, but I like it,
Mm-hmm.
And the more I acknowledged that I liked it, the easier it got to, when I went there, and not make myself wrong for it. Because you said, well, I'm a head tripper. Well, yeah, a lot of us are. Gary Douglas talks about humanoid beings that, 96% of the sugar that we ingest in any form goes to our brain because we're constantly in it,
Mm-hmm.
And so that's cool. It's not a problem. It's just looking at, okay, so what am I head tripping about right now? What's going on? Am I trying to figure out how? Am I trying to fix a problem? And that's when when you acknowledge what you're doing in your head, trying to do in your head, that's when you can begin to ask another question. So it's like, okay, I'm trying to figure out how to do this and what's the best way to do it. I mean, so I do a lot of coaching around business, especially online business, because that's what I do. So, so one of the most common things is, well, how do I do this and what's the right way to do this? And I've been trying to figure this out.
Yeah.
And the thing about trying to figure out a right way, and the reason you can't ever do it, is because it doesn't exist. So you can't find it. Mm-hmm. So it's very time consuming to try to find the right way. And it takes a lot of energy and it takes a lot of force. And so the easier way, and it's not better, it's just easier, is to ask questions. And so what do I mean by that? So if you are creating a telesummit, let's say, mm-hmm. right? And you need to choose all kinds of things. You need to choose how you're delivering the videos, how you're contacting the people, how you're going to get the list, how you're going to, all these systems to set up, right? Mm-hmm. And you could go into what's the best, right, most perfect way to do this, or you could go, okay, so what can I choose here that would make this easy, that would make this fun, and who can I play with that would make it easy and fun? Mm-hmm. And when you start asking those questions, you're going to get awareness around that, So another example, we in our household have a weekly Facebook Live show. We go every week, and we started it without anything in place. We're just like, well, let's put up a Facebook page and start doing what's going to be easy. Oh, we'll put up a Facebook page and start going live every week. Well, we had no plan.
Yeah.
And So now we're like 8 shows in and people want to actually keep in touch with us. So we're like, oh, well, how do we do that? What's the easiest way? What's the easiest thing we could set up that would allow people to stay in touch with us? Oh, okay. Well, and so that question informs what you can then start looking for, what you can begin to choose. But if we had at the very beginning gone, okay, we know we want to start a show, and then tried to do it right, we would have made it hard for ourselves and probably never would have even started.
Yeah.
But that question of like, what's the easiest way to start this? What would create the most ease? What would create the future I desire? Would it create more to start or to not start? Start. Okay, cool. Choose. And that's the easiest way that I know to get out of head tripping. And when I go into head tripping around relationship stuff, I find myself doing it. And then I start looking at like, okay, so is this a problem? Yes or no? No, maybe. Is there something required here? Do we need to have a conversation? Would that change it? Yes or no? Yes. Okay. And you start a conversation with that person, or you start, but you start to cut through your own shit of trying to figure it out and get it right and go, okay, so what's required here to change this? And that's where you just get really present with the choices that you have available to you at all times. And you cut through the trying to figure out what the right thing is.
And I like how, you ask a question and then you say yes or no. So you're getting the answer if it's a yes or a no. And so when I created this series, I asked myself questions like, what would be fun? What would be easy? It's like, I didn't want to do it the way I was doing the other telethon. I was like, well, what would be easy and fun? I want to do that this time, and then I chose based on that, So I was like, yeah, I feel like doing videos. Like, okay, that'll be fun for me, and who do I want to invite? So I, made a mental list, like, okay, and then some people didn't make it on the list. It's like, oh, no. So I was like, okay, right. And so I sometimes you don't realize that you are doing that, you're asking questions.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, the thing is that a question doesn't actually have to be verbalized. You can be a question.
Yeah.
But I find when you're first starting, it kind of helps to give it some structure, right?
Exactly.
But yeah, you just, and the thing about your life is that there's probably areas in all of your lives that create magically that you're just being a question, but you don't know. And this is where you get to start looking at like, okay, so how have I created what I've created so far? Even if what you've created is a lot of shit, there was a capacity there.
That's true. Yes.
Creation is creation.
Yeah, if you can create that, you can create something else.
Yeah, but if you start to look at the capacities, yeah, absolutely. If you look at the capacities that created that, then that's when you have access to you as a creator.
Yeah, I love that. So Dada has a question, and isn't it true if you choose from your heart, it will be for the best interest of anyone else involved?
Well, again, what's really interesting about the question is it's still coming from this place of trying to judge what's right and what's wrong. And you have to use a lot of judgment to know whether or not you're choosing from your heart. It's sort of like saying, it's like the word love. The word love has like over 600 definitions that we know about and probably has 18,000 after that. Like somebody could say, I love you and mean one thing, and another person says, I love you and means something totally different. Whereas in the energy of gratitude, there's no judgment. Like if you're grateful for somebody, you can't judge them. You're just grateful. And so if you're choosing from your heart, again, you have to judge whether or not you've chosen from your heart. And, oh yeah, I think I did. And so therefore it must be okay for everybody else. So you have to judge, you have to decide, and you have to conclude all in that same moment. And every decision, every judgment, and every conclusion limits you and actually locks you in place into a place where you have to continue judging you from that moment on. And so what I would invite you to do is like all the projections, all the expectations, all the decisions, the judgments, the computations, and the conclusions that you're using to try to come to the conclusion of what would be good for you and everybody else. Are you choosing? Would you destroy and create all that times a gazillion?
Yes.
Right. We're on Good Bad Talk on the Insurance Boys and Beyonds. So what if it wasn't relevant what was in the best interest of everybody else and you? What if what was relevant was what you desire to create in that moment? So every single moment with every single person, you get to choose what you're creating with them, with your life, with your business. Every single moment, you're choosing what you desire to create. If what you desire to create with your partner is more ease, then you get to ask the question of like, well, what would create that? What choice could I make that would create the ease here? What could I be that would create that? And sometimes what's going to create ease doesn't look like anything you think it will. In fact, most of the time. But this is what you always have to be looking at, is what do you desire to create?
Yes, absolutely. And to be honest, Dada, when I was making the difficult choice a long time ago of leaving my ex-husband, I didn't for a long time because I was worried about how it would affect my kids, right?
Yeah.
And so I didn't want to ruin their lives, right? That was the big thing. I didn't want to ruin their lives, right? So it's like, okay, I'm going to wait. And then finally I got to the point where it's like, if I'm choosing for me and what's right for me, what is going to create more for me, it will automatically create for everybody else. Because
it will create,
right? It will create. And so, and then, then after that, it's like one question at a time, one step at a time, one choice at a time, right? Yeah. But if I would have stayed married because I was like, oh my God, it's going to ruin their lives, I would have been dead by now,
Yeah.
So you have to choose for you,
Yeah, and it really does come back to the question, like because sometimes there's choices that affect a lot of people, like divorce. And same, I mean, I've done that twice. I don't have kids, but my first divorce, we had a business together, and we had like 7 teenage staff that all really looked up to us, and so it was a little bit like leaving the kids.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't have questions at the time, but if I had them now, what I would look at is like, if I leave, will that create a greater future or a lesser future? Mm-hmm. And if I stay, will that create a greater future or a lesser future? And I would just get a sense of whether or not it would create more or less. And if it created more, that's when I would look into my world and find the courage to choose it.
Right.
Because that takes you completely out of the computation of trying to figure out if everybody's going to benefit. You just have to get an overall sense of it.
Yeah.
So truth, well, this choice, one of the questions that we used when we were picking a house, which is a little bit less serious in terms of people getting affected, but there was 4 of us who we all have agendas. We all have lives. So one of us has a child. 2 of us have children, actually. Whatever we chose had to expand all of our lives, or we weren't going to choose it. There wasn't one person that was going to get left out of that equation. So that was interesting because that was kind of the first time where I've ever had to do that with a bunch of other people, which is why it's easier to be by yourself. But we did. And so one of the questions we asked is like, with every house we looked at, truth, will this choice expand all of our agendas?
Mm-hmm.
And you just get a sense. And if it's lighter and it's a yes, then then you can choose it.
Yeah. So you just, you put in the truth part. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. Well, that's another amazing tool in Access that really helps you cut through your own bullshit for yourself. And I mean, you can use it with other people too in your head. Because what it does basically is, as soon as you say truth, whoever is being asked the question has to either tell you the truth or you'll know that they're lying. Mm-hmm. It will be just very clear what's going on. And so I use that a lot with myself, because it's with the head tripping. Again, It's getting easy to get lost in your own jungle. And so if I really want to get clear on my awareness and not my thinking, because they're different, I will ask myself truth, blah, blah, blah. And then I'll get a yes or no. That's a lot of how I play with getting my awareness on something.
I love that. And I think, for me, that's important because, my mind is really strong, right? So it's like, if I ask myself truth and the question, I find it's easier. It's like I'm getting out of my way. I getting my head out of the way. It's like, I don't know. There's this, it's just like the barrier goes down. That's another one.
1,800 tools in one.
I know, right? I also use that too. It's like barriers down, barriers down, barriers down. And then I'll ask a question. Because sometimes we have so many walls up, that I can't get it. It's like, I don't know. So barriers down, right? And
something else I play with before asking myself for my awareness is I will I will destroy and uncreate all of the decisions, all the judgments, all the computations, and all the conclusions I've already made about the thing. Because a lot of times one of the things I've seen people do is they try to get their awareness about something they've already decided. So it's like they've already decided they're going to do this. Now they're going to try to get their awareness to validate whether or not their decision was right.
Right, yeah.
Which is not how you use this tool. So what you want to do, if you do care about getting your awareness on something, and that the thing is, stuff. Mm-hmm. And if you get all caught up in your head, you don't have access to what you know. And so I will pock and pod and destroy and create all of my decisions and my judgments and my computations and my conclusions about the thing times a godzillion, right, wrong, good, bad, POC, POC, online, shorts, boys and beyonds, and then I'll ask. So truth. Will this expand all of our agendas or not? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, cool. Choose.
I love that. I'm going to do that from now on.
That's a good one.
I think that'll make it so much easier to get the awareness on something, instead of guessing, and then and even for choosing, you can do that as well before you choose something. I don't know. Choosing for me, it's just like, it's either I choose this or I don't. It's like, yes, or no, it's like, I just know. It's like, yeah. Because I sense it or feel it in my being. It's like, yes, it's like, and then if it's no, it's like, Yeah. So I think I'm doing pretty good, even though I haven't analyzed how I actually do it. But I think I'm doing pretty good with it, because I've been making some really good choices lately. So I'm happy with my choices.
Yeah.
And that's the thing too. Is like, look at your life right now. How is it going? Are you enjoying it? Is it fun for you? Is it expansive for you? Right? And if not, what else can you choose now? Are you willing to make a different choice? And, sometimes, like Christel, you said earlier about having the courage to make a different choice. Yeah, sometimes you have to like really go deep and find that courage, because it could mean a whole complete shift in your life. Right? And are you willing to do whatever it takes to have that ease in your life, to have that fun, to really create the life that you desire?
Yeah. She wants the clearing statement. Yeah. So POC and POD are a part of the clearing statement. And I'll explain the clearing statement real quick. So the whole thing goes right and wrong, good and bad, POC and POD, all 9 shorts, boys and beyonds. And you seriously go to theclearingstatement.com, because there's a whole website about it. But in short, what it does is it destroys and uncreates the polarity. So anytime we're trying to find the right decision or the wrong, not do the wrong decision, or this whole right and wrong thing is all about polarity. And this is where you get locked in. You don't have choice when you're trying to do the right thing. And the point of consciousness is to create awareness, is for you to have your awareness. And you can't have your awareness when you're functioning from polarity. All you can do is function from this reality's way of doing things, which tells you there's a right thing and there's a wrong thing. And so what the clearing statement does is it takes whatever point of limitation that you've created for yourself or you've bought from somebody else, and it clears it out of the way. And POC and POD stand for the point of creation, where you created this point of view or you bought it, and the point of destruction, which is where you've been destroying your life with the point of view. So it goes into all the places where you've done right, you've decided it was right or wrong, good or bad. The point of creation, the point of destruction, the all 9 layers of glop and glop there's a whole thing about that. The shorts, which also has a whole thing. The boys, which are the nucleated spheres of issues you can't fix. And then the beyonds, which are these moments which are like, where you freak out and you just go into a beyond. And that's the short version. But it just basically takes all that energy and goes whoop, out of the way. And all of a sudden you've got space to create something else. So POCing and PODing is the short version of I POCed and PODed everything that I decided and judged and computed and concluded. And then I asked myself what my awareness was.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Dada, for that question. And I put the link for the clearing statement again in the chat. Because it is important to, it's not really that important to understand it. just use the tool.
Just works. Yeah.
It just works.
And I get it. Sometimes you want more information, and so that'll.
Yeah. So it's all there for you. But to really come back down to it, just choose what feels good. Choose what's light for you. Choose what is joyful and expansive for you. And there, for me, when I start to make a choice or whatever, I take a few deep breaths, so I'm physically like present in the moment, And sometimes I will go to my heart space, but I go to my heart space and I expand out, So it's just for me, it's just, again, it's about getting out of the head. That's the whole thing for me. It's like getting out of the head, and then asking questions, and then choosing. Just choose and see how magical life can truly be. Because, a lot of you know my story, or some of you know my story. So how much my life has shifted and changed completely in the past 5-6 years. It can for you too, once you start to make those choices, those different choices. So whether it's location, whether it's your job, whether it's relationship, whether it's around money. And I know that, Christel, you have another free gift on your website around money, and lots of YouTube videos around money. as well, right? So
Mm-hmm.
there's tons of stuff around that. And you have a free gift for us today, for our listeners today. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'm giving away my free training that I called the only 6 elements you need to create a 6-figure online business. And I really just started looking at, like, because I didn't start out here. I mean, I started out making about $3,000 a month working as a waitress and managing a restaurant. And so any income beyond that was like, it was really a beyond. And when one of the tool, I'm going to say this and I'll go back to the free class, but one of the things they talk about when you're first recreating your money reality is like, get a sense of what it's going to cost you every month to live. And I was coming up with like 15,000 a month, that was like beyond anything I knew how to create.
Mm-hmm.
And then so I just started and da-da-da. So I went back and I really looked at what are the essential elements to having created this, and I broke it all down. And so that's the training that I'm giving away. It's really cool. It's potent, it's short, it won't take a lot of your time, but it's really chock full of good information.
So is the information that's on there only for if you want to create an online business, or can you use it for life in general?
Everything. Yeah. It should have just been called the 6 elements that you need to create anything you want.
That's what I was thinking. It's like, I wonder.
Yeah.
Perfect. Great. And because, sometimes we just need the simple steps to start.
Yeah.
Right.
And I will say they're not steps. They're definitely components. They're definitely things that you just need to look for in your world and go, okay, so do I have this? Yes or no? Yes. Do I have this? Yes or no? Yes. All right. So I have everything I require. And then the only thing that's left after that is choice. Mm-hmm. And really looking at, okay, so what are my next 2 steps to this? I really want to change this. What choice do I have available to me that nobody else has? And what can I choose today to change this right away?
Mm-hmm. I love what Linda's saying. She says, I joined late. Sometimes I'm impatient for things to happen.
Yeah. Hello.
Me too.
Can this happen yesterday, please?
Yeah. It's like, are you kidding? Of course we're impatient because we want it now. Time doesn't really, is not a,
time doesn't make sense to us.
Right? Sorry, what did you say?
Yeah, well, time doesn't make sense. It's like, why does this take so long? I don't get it. But we were actually having a whole creation conversation about this in our house yesterday. We did a clearing night. So one of the things we talked about was that some things have a gestation period. Like when you get pregnant, there's a 9-month gestation period before that baby comes out. So it really doesn't matter how impatient you are. The baby's in there and it needs to grow. And then with other things, like they can show up right away. And one of the things we talk about all the time in Access Consciousness is having enough on the go, that you have all these different things in the mix that have different lengths of gestation. And you're just like using your awareness to like contribute energy over here, do a thing over there. Like we want to build a house that has a gestation period. We got to create the money for the plans and then create the money for the land and create, so there's time involved in that, but not because it takes a long time. It's just that the way we're creating that is going to happen to take time. And so we have to have enough on the go to keep ourselves engaged in the creation of our life so that time is not relevant. It's like, oh yeah, so what's required there today? Okay, I need to do this step and do this step, fine. So that's what I would, how many more things do you need to add to your life so that waiting becomes a non-issue?
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing, for most humanoids, we get bored really quickly. I know I get bored really quickly with things. And so I need to have different things on the go that I'm working on, playing with all the time, because otherwise I get bored. And when we get bored, I don't know about you, but I get in trouble.
We are obsessive compulsive creators, and when we don't have enough to do, we're obsessive compulsive creators of crap.
Exactly. Yes, that. I love that. Thank you. Yeah. So for those of you who, obviously you've all signed up, blah, blah, blah. So you can just go to the gifts page to access Christel's gift as well as everybody else's. And a little bit later, I'll be sending out an email with the replay link and all that wonderful stuff. And there'll be a link to the gifts page there as well. So you can have that. But start using these tools that Christel shared today. Start looking, sign up for her gift and download that and all that stuff and start watching it. So it's not just about, all right, I'm going to get it and then I'm not going to do anything with it. Get it, watch it, or listen to it, and then start implementing that in your life. That is making a choice to create something different, right? Same thing with all the other gifts. Don't just download them and then do nothing. download them, listen to them, play with them, and start implementing those tools. Now you're making a choice to create your reality, creating your life, a different life than you have created before, right? So that's also choosing. So I love choice because it choice creates. Choice creates, and choice gives you awareness, right?
Yeah, it's my favorite topic.
I know, me too. Choice and creation. I just love talking about that because there's so much possible, right? And anything is possible. And so what are you going to create with your life? What are you going to create today? And what can you add to your life that would be fun for you? That's another tool, something to ask. What can I add to my life that would be fun for me today? Or universe, show me something beautiful. Show me something miraculous. Universe, show me something, whatever it is that you're wanting to see today. Because the universe also has your back. But are you communicating? Are you talking to the universe? I mean, we can go on and on and on, but but yeah, thank you. So, Christel, did you have any other last tip or tool that we can use to create our life beyond mediocre to infinite possibility? Because really, when we are choosing, when you're making a choice, you're going beyond mediocre, right?
Yeah. I would just, again, I think I would circle back around to really shopping for your reality. Like, what does that even mean to you? What's beyond mediocre to you? I went out with a couple of my friends. We were in Los Angeles and we were eating out every night anyway, but I had one of them that said, I don't want to do anything mediocre tonight. So she started Googling like just wildly fancy restaurants, and we found this amazing place. And I went, and I realized in that moment that I chose mediocre a lot. And so I started to ask myself, like, if I weren't choosing mediocre, what would I choose? And those some simple little things where
That's a great question.
When you just start to acknowledge what you're choosing and that you can choose something else and ask yourself what you would choose, that's what's going to start to like begin to unravel and create something really different.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you.
Yeah.
And thank you so much, everyone, for being here live with us today and for your comments and questions. Thank you so much. I so appreciate that. And we'll have another live show on Monday evening, or Monday afternoon for you all. So until next time, continue to live your life filled with joy, peace, love, abundance, and happiness, sending you all much love and blessings always. Bye for now. Thank you, everyone.